Welcome to another chill video, legends. I know I said my previous video was going to be the last one of the year, but I lied. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be ranking all of my platinums that I got this year. We're going to grade them partially based on, the actual game itself. But of course, the platinum trophy itself and the trophies are going to sway my decision a little bit as well. So you could have a brilliant game, but absolutely horrendous trophies, which means, you're going to be a bit lower down on the tier list. So let's begin with what was my first platinum of 2024, Omno. So this one I'm going to put in C. So C is going to be my average game. It was short, it's an indie puzzle platformer. You'll see me looking off to the side here because I want to look at kind of what the rating was and stuff. So it says it was a 2 out of 10 and only a 4-hour platinum. So of course, I obviously started off the year with something quite relaxing and easy. Basically, play through the game, get a couple of collectibles, and just enjoy yourself. Nothing crazy for our first platinum. Second platinum, though, was quite a bit different. This one was pretty rough in parts because of the extinction trophies. And I'm gonna put this one, I think, in B, above average. I surprisingly really enjoyed the story mode, the campaign for this Call of Duty, which I didn't think I would. Didn't really play much of the multiplayer, wasn't a fan of the multiplayer. If I remember right, when this originally came out, I think it was one of the only Call of Duty games that didn't reach like a stable 60 FPS, and the maps being absolutely huge and just basically hating the multiplayer. But that aside, there was also the extinction mode, which was the bulk of the trophies for me, just because I did find them quite difficult. So the rating for this one is a 4 out of 10 and takes about 30 hours. I would agree with the 30 hours, but I would honestly say it's more difficult than a 4 out of 10, just because some of the trophies just rely on other people, and if you're with randoms, that's usually always a recipe for disaster. And in my case, it was. I needed to escape with a certain amount of time left on the clock, and my teammates would just stand outside of the circle and not leaving the chopper, so the timer would go too low. And yeah, it was honestly just a bit of a headache. There was also a challenge or a trophy where you needed to complete every challenge, and some of them were just seriously annoying. You could play through the whole extinction level, and then right at the end you could get a really awkward challenge, and if you failed, you would have to restart the whole run because you needed to do them all in one go. So yeah, there was some tough parts in Call of Duty Ghosts for sure, but overall I would say above average. Moving on to our next one was Far Cry New Dawn. This one, again, enjoyed more than I thought I would. So because of that, I think I'm going to throw this in B as well, above average. The trophies, the usual Far Cry stuff. My phone's going off. Yeah, nothing too outlandish. I did like how you could build a base and recruit people. That was pretty cool. The twins, though, the main two bosses, was horrendous. They were so unlikable, and sometimes that's a good thing because they're unlikable. It just makes you want to kill them even more. But honestly, they was unlikable in a way of just really annoying. Thankfully, they barely showed up. Story was bad, gameplay was good, and I quite liked the little co-op mode as well. So it was pretty good, especially I think this was just after doing Far Cry 5. And although I really liked Far Cry 5, the online trophies in Far Cry 5 was really crap. There was some multiplayer trophies, and the multiplayer is just horrendous. We're not talking about Far Cry 5, so let's move on to the next game, which is It Takes Two. Fun co-op game, this one. From what I remember, I think I only really needed 2 extra trophies, so this was just more of a clean up, a go back to sort of deal. The ratings is a 3 out of 10, 15 hours. That checks out. I remember it being really easy and short. The only one trophy that was even relatively troublesome was one where you needed to climb some tower or something. It was actually quite difficult to get up there. I'll throw that in average as well. It's another decent one. Next was Jack and Jill. I think this is considered a shovelware game. You basically you press X to start the level. and your like little thing will move through the black and white level, and you just press X to jump over stuff. It's really straightforward, really basic. The rating is a 1 out of 10 and takes 1 hour, and it only took me 13 minutes. So yeah, absolutely shovelware. You don't even have to play the whole game. I think you only need to play like a few levels or something. So for that, I'm going to throw that in F. So the next one I decided to tackle was a game called Proteus. This game is a first-person shooter, very much like the Doom games. You go through the levels. Trophy-wise, first of all, I'm going to put it in B. I'm going to put it in above average. I enjoyed my time with it. There was a trophy, though, to kill like 10,000 enemies, which was a bit tedious. And you needed to play through the game getting 100% in every level, which meant finding all of the collectibles, finding all of the secrets, and killing every enemy in the level. Some of the levels I remember being quite annoying. Some of the enemies were hard to find. If you like maybe progressed a bit too far into the level and missed one enemy, you couldn't go back. And if you didn't get 100% in the level, you did have to go through and do the whole thing again, which was really annoying. Thankfully though, it wasn't too bad, and overall I did enjoy it. If it wasn't so annoying with certain things, I probably would have put it in A, but for now it's going to rock a B. After that, I decided to go for The Last of Us Part 2 and The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. This might be, I'm not sure, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I absolutely love The Last of Us Part 2. Not quite as much as Part 1. Like most, I don't like what they did to Joel, obviously. But I still really love the game. The gameplay is really fun. The story is really good. And I did enjoy playing as the Joel killer. So I didn't mind that too much. I just really love the game. Part 2 and then the remaster. The remaster, I think, is actually easier than the original Part 2 because of, I think, more accessibility. I did go for 100% in the remastered version, though, which did involve a quite difficult trophy, a couple of difficult trophies with a no return mode, and then also the DLC trophies you had to play through on Grounded and Permadeath. So even though the trophy guide says both games are a 3 out of 10 and both about 35 hours, you could definitely increase that 3 out of 10 if you do go for DLC trophies like I did. I'd probably bump them up to maybe like a 5 or a 6 out of 10. Next was Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. Probably my favorite Assassin's Creed game. Right up there with Assassin's Creed 2. I'm going to put it in A. I really want to put it in S tier, but I'm going to put it in A tier just because in this version that I played, which I think was the PS4 version, you need the DLC trophy in this one because it's part of the base game. Hopefully that makes sense. But you needed to 100% synchronize every mission. And some of the missions were really freaking annoying. It was thankfully a little bit better with collectibles. I think there was only 10 feathers, but I think they then also included 100 flags, which was a bit annoying. So yeah, trophy-wise, not the best. Game-wise though, I would have put it in S tier. So yeah, Brotherhood goes in A. And then next I did, so during this year, I've been playing my PlayStation Vita, and at some point on the store, I found some really cheap Vita games. So this is where these shovelware kind of ones come into play. I think I'm just going to put them all in there now, just to get them out of the way. So that Jack and Jill, that was a shovelware type game. I played it on the Vita. So then there was Iron Snout, shovelware, terrible game, again. Played it on the Vita. Then I don't know if Access Denied is considered shovelware because it takes a lot longer than the usual shovelware game. It's a puzzle game that I just, like I say, really enjoyed playing on the Vita. So I'm actually just going to throw that one in average because it's actually pretty good. What other shovelwares we got? Foxyland 2, shovelware, played it on the Vita. We've then got this one, Super Destructoid, or whatever the hell it's called, DX. I don't know where to put this one because I guess it's considered shovelware because you can actually get the platinum super quick. But if I'm being honest, again, played on my Vita, I think it's a really good game. But the game itself is basically Space Invaders, but a little bit more modern, and it is really fun. So I'm actually just going to put that in average. I think it's a bit unfair for that one to go in shovelware. Then we've got Super Willow D-Make. another shovelware type game that I played on the Vita. I'm just going to put that in D, because I don't think it's quite a terrible shovelware like these ones are, because there's actually a game there, but it's still, you know, under average for sure. Then we've got Milo's Quest. I'm going to put that one in D as well, because it is shovelware. It's, I guess you can't really say good shovelware. I don't know. Yeah, screw it. There's good shovelware, those two, and then average, quote unquote, shovelware, and then just don't even bother with F tier, you know? Then Fritense, one of my newer videos. I would imagine this is considered shovelware. It only took me about an hour and a half, but I didn't think it was a terrible game. I mean, it was pretty terrible, to be honest. I think I even put that in the title. But I don't think it's F tier, you know? So we'll throw it in under average, D. It's not quite as bad again as the F tiers. And then I think there's maybe one or two more that I played on the Vita. Right, I'll go through these ones as well, because I think these are considered shovelware, but they're actually pretty good. So we've got one called Freddy Spaghetti 2. I'm even considering doing a video on it, because it's actually a pretty fun game. You play as a piece of spaghetti, and you have to like make your way through some offices and stuff, and you play little mini games, and the gameplay it's like a really easy version of I Am Bread, if you know that game. And honestly, it's actually pretty fun, not gonna lie. It's a fun hour. This is another one, Super Box Delivery. I'm gonna throw that in C as well. Only took me about an hour and a half, I think, but it was actually quite fun. All you're really doing is driving down a road, moving left and right, collecting boxes, and as you collect boxes, the stack gets higher, and then you have to like bank them. It's really straightforward. It's kind of fun. For as long as it is, it's quite fun. Next, we've got Read 2. I really didn't like this one. I don't think it's F tier, but it's a platformer that I just found the controls to be pretty crap. And then I think the last one is this one, Our Guest Tonight. I'm going to put that in F tier. Literally all you do is like these two characters here. The janitor will come on screen and you clap. And then this obnoxious poster guy will come on the screen and you just boo. There's literally no game in there. It's terrible. And I think that's the end of them. I will throw in, actually, even though I don't consider this to be shovelware whatsoever, Save Room, I'm going to put... I kind of want to put it in B, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to put it in C because it is such a simple game. But Save Room is basically... I don't know if it's just me. I'm guessing it isn't just me, considering there was a game made now. When playing Resident Evil 4 and you're kind of micromanaging what you like, how you place your items in the briefcase, I always thought to myself, you know, I'd probably make a pretty cool game, and that's basically what Save Room is. It's Resident Evil 4's briefcase turned into a puzzle game, and it's honestly really fun. It's really cool. It's really fun. It's quite short. I think I platinumed it twice. I did it originally the first time just normally. It took me about 2 hours. And then I did it again just using a guide since I'd already done it. And I think it only took like half an hour. So you can get it really rapid if you just use a guide. So with those, let's jump into some more fun games. So RoboCop Rogue City. I'm going to put this in B, above average. Really enjoyed it. I liked it way more than I thought I was going to. I thought because of it being a small studio, it'd be a bit janky and not too great. And although it feels a bit stiff, it makes sense because you're playing as, well, RoboCop. But the fact that you can just like pick up enemies and throw them around the room and blast off limbs and throw TVs and canisters and all sorts of things, just throw them at enemies. It's just really fun. It was badass playing as RoboCop. Murphy kicks ass in the films, and he does in this game as well. And if you enjoy the films, you probably will enjoy your time with this. Is it crazy good? No. But as a fan of RoboCop, I really enjoyed it. The guide's got it at a 3 out of 10 and taking about 12 hours. That sounds about right to me. Then moving on to a game I absolutely hated, which was Suicide Squad. Can't bring myself to put it in F because that's just as much as I disliked Suicide Squad, it's quite disrespectful to put it in F, so I'm not going to put it in F. I'm going to put it in D. Below average for sure. I did not enjoy my time with it. I've discussed this a few times. The platinum was tedious. It was boring. The story was crap. The boss fights was absolutely horrendous. The combat was, again, really boring and there's just nothing. There was really nothing there. I think the only one good thing I could say about it that I can think of off the top of my head was one of the missions where Batman is like stalking you in a museum, I think. Off the top of my head, that is the only mission in the whole game, the only section of the whole game that I can legitimately remember thinking to myself, oh, this is actually quite fun. Nothing else was. The guide's got it at a ridiculous 60 hours, which I wish it was a quarter of that, and a 4 out of 10, which checks out. Difficulty-wise, I honestly don't remember anything difficult at all for it to be a 4, but I do remember it taking a while because I needed to grind out ranks or something. Once you've beat the game, the end game in this was to just replay the same thing over and over again, slightly increasing difficulty, and it was just bad. Then was a pretty fun co-op game, Dead Island Riptide. I'm going to put it in average. I do really enjoy Riptide, but I don't think it's as strong a game as first Dead Island, and it's definitely not as strong of a game as second Dead Island. There's also just a couple of tedious trophies in Riptide. As a game, I probably would put it in B, but as a trophy, getting the trophies and the platinum, there's a decent amount of collectibles to worry about, some of them being missables, a few tedious trophies as well that you do have to go out of your way to get. So the end of the game, like the second half of the game, is mostly just doing tedious little things. And then I went and did the first 2 Crash games in the trilogy. I've still got to do Crash 3, but I did Crash 1 and 2 when I can find them. I can't find 1, but let's do Crash 2 first. I'm going to put this in A. I think the Crash games are amazing. All of the Crash games. 1 is mostly where my nostalgia comes from because that was the one I played the most of. 2 a little bit less, and then 3 even less than that. Either way, both Crash 1 and 2 are amazing games. I expect nothing less from Crash 3, if not even better, because honestly I do feel Crash 2 is actually a better game than Crash 1, but it is definitely a lot easier than Crash 1. Why can't I find... there it is. Crash 1, there we go. So Crash 1 and Crash 2, both going in amazing. The trophy guide has got this at Crash 1 being a 7 out of 10 and taking 18 hours. And Crash 2 is a 6 out of 10, taking 14 hours. I feel like with Crash 1, the 18 hours, because of it being a bit more of a difficult platformer, the 18 hours is very loose. If you're really good at platformers, it could probably take a lot less. If you're really bad at platformers, it'd take you a lot longer. I don't remember how long it took me, but what I do remember is I would rate it more probably an 8 out of 10, although I did go for 100%, which meant I needed to do the secret DLC mission thing, which in my opinion was by far the hardest level. It was a lot harder than any of the base game levels, so I would probably put it up to an 8, plus I'm just not very good at platformers. Time-wise, again, I can't really say too much. And Crash 2, I would honestly say probably a 6 out of 10, maybe even a 5, because 2 is a lot easier than the first one. Either way, they're both amazing. It's the usual stuff for a Crash game. You need to get 100% on all the levels, so you need to do the little speed runs, you need to get all the gems, all that kind of usual stuff. Honestly, it's just really fun the whole way through, other than, when you're raging at the game because you're terrible. But outside of that, going for the platinum is also a really fun challenge. And then we get on to what was by far not only the longest, but the hardest platinum I have achieved this year. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Now, if we were going off just the game, 100% is going in S tier. The platinum, however, holy crap, did it piss me off. At times felt ridiculously unfair, and honestly, I think the producer actually agrees that he made the platinum in Rebirth a little bit too difficult, and they also did mess up I think on at least one of the boss fights, they ended up patching it to make it easier. So I'm going to throw it in A. I don't want to put it any lower than A because trophy-wise, I would put it B. Game-wise, I would put it S. So I'm going to go in the middle and I'm going to throw it in awesome or amazing, whatever. PSN has it rated at an 8 out of 10. I agree, maybe even a 9. And 200 hours. I think it took me, from what I remember, was about 181. So yeah, I can agree with that. Really long, really difficult, but also really good for the most part. Then was a game that was quite disappointing. I'm going to throw it in average. I don't think it's a below average game, but it's definitely an average game. I would say I enjoyed Skull and Bones more than Suicide Squad. I don't know, actually. Do you know what? I think I'm going to put Skull and Bones with Suicide Squad, because I can't really definitively say that I enjoyed Skull and Bones more than Suicide Squad. I feel like I liked it a little bit more, but not enough to put it in average. I think it's a below average game. Yeah, definitely below average. Trophies, not the worst ever. There was a certain one, though, where you needed to collect jute or something, from what I remember, and it took a while. The story is basically non-existent. The missions are bare bones as it gets. It could have been a good game, but they absolutely ballsed it up and turned it into a pretty tedious pirate game. Yeah, it was. It just wasn't very good. The platinum wasn't good. The game wasn't very good. I think the only thing I can really say that was somewhat enjoyable was fighting some of the crocodiles and stuff you needed to hunt. And there was a mythical beast as well, which, for whatever reason, I don't think there was even a trophy tied to it. It was by far the coolest enemy in the game, and there were no trophy to do with it, so it was a bit odd. Oh, and you couldn't even get the platinum for like a month or two later because they bugged out one of the trophies where you needed to do a chat or something. I don't know. It was poo. Moving on to one that absolutely was not poo was Punch Club 2. An amazing game. Not going to put it in S tier. The video did terrible, which kind of sucks because it is such a good game. The story is super fun. The gameplay is super fun. It's a very old school game, 8-bit graphics and simulation games, and maybe a little bit of fighting in there as well. I think you'll really enjoy this one. I don't remember how long this one took, and I'm looking, there's no guide, so I couldn't tell you anything like that. I completed it though in 2 days and 6 hours, so I'd imagine it's not the longest platinum ever. And difficulty wise, I remember having a little bit of trouble, so I went online to look for a build, and then it got a hell of a lot easier. So I'd say it's probably like a 4 out of 10 difficulty wise. After that, I took on the 2 Spyro games. I'm going to put Spyro in amazing. I think the games are amazing and the platinums are pretty fun as well. Obviously, because of it being one of those old school platformers, there's a lot of collectibles. But in these kind of games, it doesn't usually bog them down just because it's kind of part of the game. And you expect it. You go in knowing that you're going to be doing a few collectible stuff. They look amazing as well. Like graphics wise, they look incredible. As for like, I did a video on 1 and I wanted to do a video on 2. I recorded the video for 2. Like the gameplay, and I've said this in another video, but I can't find the footage for 2, so I probably won't be doing that. So I might do 3 in the future. They're both considered, okay, so Spyro 1 is a 2 out of 10, Spyro 2 is a 3 out of 10, and they take 7 and 8 hours. So around the same amount of time, around the same difficulty. Checks out, they're both super short, but fun while they last. And then speaking of collectibles, the next one had way too many of the bloody things, which is Stellar Blade. So I'm going to put this in B. As a game, it would have gone in A. I needed to do multiple playthroughs and yeah, just way too many collectibles. I might be way off here, but I feel like there were literally hundreds and hundreds of collectibles in this game, and it really bogged it down. But my final probably like 6 hours or something with this game was just getting collectibles, and it was super boring, which is a shame because the game itself is really good. Looking at the guide, it's a 4 out of 10 and about 60 hours. Sounds about right to me. I then did a nice short game called I Am Dead. I want to put it a bit higher because I did really enjoy it, but it's such a simple game. There's not really much like game to it, but it is good for what it is. You basically take control of an old geezer that has died, and he's kind of like floating around as a ghost. You control him, and you kind of move around the levels, and you go into areas and into characters, and you hear like backstory on what people thought of the character you're playing as, and it's very wholesome, and I enjoyed it. And I did another short one, very similar-ish game. Last Stop. I'm actually going to put this in B because I actually really like this. I think it's an above-average game. It is basically just one of those like Telltale type deals where it's, you know, you walk around a little bit and decide on dialogue and stuff. But the story really captured me. I enjoyed the story of all of the characters and the way they were kind of all interwoven into each other, and it was up there with, if I was again like a Telltale game, it was definitely one of my favorite ones. I then did a game that I had put off for a long time, which was Fallout 4. I'm gonna put this in, I think I'm gonna put it in B, just because the game is an A, but the trophies really, in my opinion, really bogged down Fallout 4. The multiple playthroughs, and then the game itself has like plenty of glitches and bugs. I ran into a lot of game-breaking glitches that I had to just do some crazy things just to fix and get around. If you see my video, you'll know what I'm talking about, which was a shame because it really did put a dampener on the whole game as a, well, the game as a whole. The guide's got it a 3 out of 10. Sounds about right. There's nothing difficulty-wise. You don't have to play on like a high difficulty. I'm pretty sure you can just pop it straight onto the easiest difficulty and you'll just blast through everything. And 50 hours sounds about right. I did go and do a decent amount of the DLC. I've still got a bit more to do. But yeah, it was good. It was good, but it definitely has its issues. I then did a little horror game on the side. If you know anything about me, I really enjoy my horror games, but a lot of horror games are terrible. This one wasn't bad, but it definitely wasn't good either. Took me, I think, about 2 to 3 hours. You're basically kind of exploring a theme park, which is funny because I'm going to be playing a horror game that's very much like old school horror games, where I'm pretty sure that's a theme park as well. I haven't looked too deep into the gameplay and the game where it takes place and stuff, because I don't want to spoil too much, but I'm pretty confident it does take place in a theme park. So I'm really looking forward to that one, and I probably will make a video on it. This one I didn't make a video, I just played it myself. Then I went and cleaned up Human Fall Flat. I'm going to put this in average as well. The trophies are a little bit annoying. You have to play through the whole game in one run, which isn't the worst thing ever, but still a little bit tedious. I then went and did Cat Quest 1 and had a little bit of a break before doing 2, but I'm just going to do both of them now. Cat Quest, I'm going to throw Cat Quest in B, I think. And then Cat Quest 2 is basically an improvement in every single way. But 2 was absolutely a massive improvement. I haven't gotten around to playing 3 yet, so I am looking forward to finally getting to that one when I do. I'd imagine they're both really short and really easy because I don't remember any difficulty whatsoever. Yeah, so Cat Quest 1 is a 3 out of 10 at taking 12 hours. I think that's around what it took me. And then Cat Quest 2, I guess there's no guide for that one. But I would say it's probably difficulty-wise about the same. And in between Cat Quest 1 and 2, I cleaned up the final trophy on The Witness. I'm going to throw that into average. That final trophy I needed was something to do with speedrunning the last section of the game. I hated it. It was awful. If you've done it yourself, you probably know what trophy I'm talking about. And I finished off Super Exploding Zoo, which again, another average game. I think I needed a couple of collectible type things and some online trophies that a friend helped me out with. I think he needed them as well, so we kind of worked together to get those. Nothing too crazy on this one. The difficulty is a 3 out of 10 and takes about 6 hours. Sounds about right. I platinumed it in 8 years and 11 months. And I also did Marvel's Spider-Man 2. I'm going to put it in awesome. I don't think it's as good as Spider-Man 1. Maybe gameplay-wise, I think it's better than the first one. Story-wise, I think the first one was better. Thankfully, the stealth missions in this one with Mary Jane were way better. Trophy-wise, very, very similar. By the books. Nothing difficult in there. I feel like most of the time with PlayStation's exclusives, they usually don't have a difficulty, so you can just play on the easiest if you want. So yeah, difficulty-wise, nothing too crazy. Do we have a rating on PSN profiles? We do, so 3 out of 10, 30 hours. I agree with that. Basically just complete everything in the game, like all the side objectives, everything. Any marker that's on the map, you probably got to go and get it done. I then did SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom. I'll put this in B. I thought it was pretty fun. I also did the second SpongeBob, which I thought was a bit better than Bikini Bottom. I wouldn't say it's good enough to put in A, but definitely better than Bikini Bottom. Both of them had very similar trophy lists. Go through, play the levels, fail at way too many jumps even though you shouldn't have, and grab all of the collectibles. You know how it goes with platformers. They can be difficult, but as for the trophy lists, they're usually all quite similar. I finished off the few trophies I needed in this one, Tormented Souls, another horror game I played. I'm actually going to put that in B because I quite like it. I think I started this one a good few years ago, like 2-ish years ago, and then finally finished it off this year. When I did finish it off, I then realized there's like apparently some developer cheats or something you can do to get some of the harder trophies, which I wish I'd known. It's a top-down, old-school like Resident Evil view, which I am always a sucker for. If you show me a horror game with that old-school Silent Hill, old-school, like, well, more Resident Evil camera views where they're fixed, you show me a game like that, I'm probably going to play it. It says it's a 4 out of 10 and a 10-hour plat. It sounds about right. It probably took me a lot longer than 10 hours because when I originally played through it, I didn't use a guide or anything. So it probably took me more like 15 to 20. I then finished off another game, which was yet another zombie defense. I'd just say this is an average game. This is one of the few games where the trophy list actually improves the game, because the trophies want you to do mad little things. Basically, all you do is you're in like a little box-ish level, and you get money as you kill zombies, and you can buy new weapons and defenses. So you build like little walls around and spikes and stuff, and the whole goal is to just survive as long as you can. And some of the trophies were like survive up to like round 8 or 10 or whatever, but without purchasing a gun, or only using a shotgun, or not taking any damage, or only using mines, and it just spiced up what is otherwise a very simple game. So I actually think, which doesn't happen very often, I actually think the trophies improved this game. It was then another cleanup situation, Division 2. I'm going to put this in B. I would put it higher as a game, but some of the trophies are a little bit tedious and take quite a while. I've said this in my previous video, but needed to do one to do with cards. Keep killing the same enemy every half an hour, hoping I got the card that I needed. And it was a little tedious towards that final section. I can't remember the area, but there's like that zone that you go into that's the kind of the multiplayer zone where everyone can kill each other. When I was going into there was just so many squads in that zone just killing everyone, and they had like all the best gear because they'd probably been playing it for such a long time. They had the best gear, the best skills, they knew what to do. You know how it goes when you jump into an online game that's years and years old. The few remaining people are usually, they know exactly what they're doing, and you come in there kind of not knowing what the hell you're doing, and it usually makes for a really freaking annoying time. And when we did those trophies, that's definitely the way it went. And another cleanup game. So I finished off finally killing floor 2. I'm going to throw this again in B, above average. The trophies though are just ridiculously boring. I was going to make a video on this one until I realized 80% of the trophies are just collectibles. There was maybe a handful of cool trophies in there, but unfortunately, because this was a cleanup, most of the cool trophies I'd actually already got. years and years ago, because I guess they were the cool ones. So I was like, yeah, I'll do those ones. So the only ones I really had left to do was just go through like 10 to 15 levels shooting skulls. No real thought put into them, so it was pretty lame. I also ended up doing all the DLC, which pretty much all the DLC trophies were exactly the same. They added new levels, and this new level was like, oh, go and destroy 15 bottles or skulls, or yeah, you get the idea. Another cleanup with Goat Simulator. I'm going to put that in B as well. I really enjoy the Goat Simulator game. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I do plan on doing this was the PS3 version. I do plan on doing a video at some point on the PS4 version and doing all of the DLC as well, which I've heard is actually quite fun. I then decided to do Tiny Tina's, why is that in there? Okay, so Borderlands pre-sequel. I didn't platinum this year, so I'm not sure why that's there, but I actually think it's a really good, I think it's an underrated Borderlands game. Now let me find the actual Borderlands game I did, which was Assault on Dragon Keep. I'm gonna put it in B. I think the game itself is an A, but the trophies for this are just really crap. Literally, the second half of this game is just doing the same thing over and over again to level up, and then making each character and getting a couple of kills with each skill. I just wanted it to be over. I wanted it to be done. If you just play the game, it's really good, but yeah, the trophies was such a letdown. I've then got a wrestling game, which is probably the first wrestling game I've platinumed in a long time, which is AEW Fight Forever. I'm going to throw this in I'm going to throw it in under average. I didn't think it was a good game at all. The gameplay was boring. Thankfully, I didn't have to play through the career mode 10 times because that would have been absolutely torture. Because I just didn't enjoy it. Maybe it's because I'm just not a fan of wrestling anymore. Maybe that's why. I didn't really know that many of the wrestlers, so that might be another reason why. And then moving on to my favorite game of all time, pretty much, well, maybe not my favorite game of all time, but definitely up there, is Dead Rising, the original. Well, this is a remaster. The original was only on 360, but it's basically the original. Obviously, you've got the infamous 7-Day Survivor trophy, which was quite grueling to play 14 hours straight, making sure not to miss eating any food and stressing about dying and stuff. So it definitely was stressful. I can't put it anywhere but S tier. It's one of my favorite games of all time. I finally got a trophy / achievement that I've always wanted since originally playing it back on the 360. The guide says it's a 5 out of 10 and a 35-hour plat. I'd probably say it maybe takes a bit longer than 35 hours, but that might just be for me because I enjoyed the game so much, just played through so many times. 5 out of 10? I would honestly say it's probably a bit higher than a 5 out of 10. If you know what you're doing, it's probably a 5 out of 10. But I feel like for the average player, it's probably about a 7. Because you can, like I say, make it easy if you know what you're doing. You get the chainsaws and the books and stuff. You can make it easy. But if you don't know all that stuff, it's much more difficult. And again, with the 7-Day Survivor, although not difficult, it is stressful. And it's quite daunting to even attempt. Then we've got Withering Rooms, another horror game. I think I live streamed quite a lot of this one. I'm going to put this in, I think this is an average game. I was a bit disappointed. I thought it was going to be better than it was. I did also, though, struggle quite a lot near the middle of the game towards the end. And with this one, the way it works is you're working your way through the areas. Like every time you die, you respawn, but everything's changed. So it's got that slight roguelike feel to it, which I wasn't the biggest fan of. There's no difficulty or timer rating or anything on PSNP. I would honestly say it's about 6 or a 7 out of 10. I did find it quite difficult, as I say. And it took me just over 3 days, so I'd probably say it's about a 20-hour plat-ish. I then did Before the Storm, Life is Strange. If you played these Life is Strange games or just those types of games, Telltale type games, you usually know what you're in for. This one does have a few missables, unlike most of Telltale's, where you just play through the game. It's short though, it's a story game. I'm throwing it in average. Then we've got Hello Neighbor 1 and 2. Hello Neighbor 1, I think it's a pretty bad game. I know it's got a big following, but I honestly just think it's not a good game in any sense of the word. I think it's a pretty bad game. Thankfully, it's a short one, 2 out of 10 difficulty. Nope, hold up, I'm looking at Hello Neighbor 2. Okay, Hello Neighbor 1 doesn't have a rating or a time. I don't actually know how long it took me. And the difficulty literally comes from the game being just really janky and glitchy. And I did not enjoy it. Wouldn't recommend it. Hello Neighbor 2, however, I think is actually a pretty good game. I'm going to even put it above average. I think it's pretty decent. If you follow a guide, it says it's 1 hour. I'm sure it is 1 hour if you follow a guide. I didn't. I played it naturally. So you can probably, because of it being a puzzle game and you've got to figure stuff out, you can easily take that up to like, I'd say 8 to 10 hours. Maybe not. Maybe like 6. Definitely a lot longer than 1 hour without, if you play it blind, it's definitely going to take way longer than that. It wasn't janky like the first one. I actually enjoyed exploring the neighborhood, and yeah, it was fun. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. I thought this was a really fun game. The trophy list is pretty good. Unfortunately, there is the usual missable stuff though. If you miss them, I think you do have to go back through and grab them. I don't remember if it's got chapter select, so I apologize. I feel like there was certain trophies though. If you did miss them, you probably have to do a completely new playthrough. Difficulty wise, it's a 3 out of 10 and takes about 20 hours. And then just before Guardians, actually, I did Dead Rising 2. This one for me, another S tier. Am I a little bit biased? Probably. Dead Rising 2, incredible. I'm tempted to pull it down to A because of some of the trophies, like having to eat every piece of food, use every single type of weapon, unlock every combo weapon and use the combo weapons, try on all the clothes. I don't know if I said that, but there is a lot of tedious trophies in this. Enter every shop, and the main issue with a lot of them is the game doesn't track which items you've created, which clothes you've tried on. None of them are tracked in-game, so you've just basically got to have this big-ass spreadsheet somewhere else on your phone, on your other monitor, whatever, and track everything that you've done. Because if you don't track it, you're just going to have no idea what the hell you're supposed to do next. So do you know what? Because of all that, I can't be biased. Just saying it all out loud, how tedious it is, and then also needing to spend like 6 to 7 hours driving up and down the strip. As much as it pains me, I'm going to have to put it in A, just because the platinum really does bring Dead Rising 2 down. Maybe even to a B for a lot of people. I'm going to settle with A. If you go into Dead Rising 2 for the platinum, just know that there's a lot of tedium in there. I then did Need for Speed Unbound. I'm going to put this in average. The trophies definitely bring this game down. You need to grab all of the collectibles, so like smashing through all the signs. You need to do all of the speed challenges. There's just a lot of extra crap, and the reason I had to go back to it is because I played the actual, like the main base of the game and enjoyed it, but then there's just so many extra challenges and stuff to do in the open world that I just got really fucking bored, like really bored. And then I saw it come out on PlayStation Plus, I think, and I was like, you know what, let's just go and get it done. So I finished it off. And then it was another cleanup game, which was Security Breach. I'm going to put it in average. I think the game is a lot better than the other Five Nights at Freddy's games, but there's also just a lot of issues. There's a lot of glitches in Security Breach. So many things just break, missions, and yeah, it was a bit of a headache. And then one of the trophies, I needed to play through the whole game without hiding, which was also very annoying, because sometimes you just get spotted and you just think to yourself, like, there's just no way I should have been spotted there. So I'm going to throw it in average. I do think it was one of the better Five Nights at Freddy's games, but still nothing special. The guide's got it at a 3 out of 10 and 20 hours. I would honestly say it's probably more of a 5 out of 10, if not even a 6. And I think it took me quite a lot longer than 20 hours. So yeah, I'd have to disagree with that one. And then I did Resident Evil 6. I'm not going to say too much about Resident Evil 6 because I will be making a platinum video on it, but I am going to throw it in B. I think it's an above average game, but it is the weakest Resident Evil game by a long shot. Well, I guess it depends what Resident Evil games we're talking about, because if we're talking about, Umbrella Corps, then, maybe it's not the worst Resident Evil game, but as far as I'm concerned, there's like the more mainline Resident Evil games, at least, it's the worst one. Again, not going to go too much into detail, but it's rated at a 4 out of 10 and takes 60 hours. From what I remember, there is a decent amount of a grind towards the end. Also, the DLC trophies in RE6, oh my god, they are absolutely horrendous. Next, I did one that I thought was quite boring, which was Harry Potter Quidditch Champions. I'm going to throw this in... I'm going to throw it in under average. I think it's an under average game. It's super simple. It felt a little bit better that we got it for free, but it does feel like it should be free. I would have been probably quite annoyed if I'd have paid for this. The platinum wasn't difficult and it was quite short. The guide's got it at 15 hours and 3 out of 10. It sounds about right. I probably spent like 4 hours of those just bloody letting the computer play for me because I was just so bored of the bloody game. I didn't want to play the matches over and over again. So yeah, because of that, it's going in D. And we've got Star Wars Outlaws. I think I enjoyed Outlaws more than most people, but I also just don't think it's a good game. I'm going to throw it in average. There were certain things in there that I enjoyed. I did enjoy exploring the world. That was really cool, riding around on the bike. Nix, your little pet. I did like some of the missions, but a lot of them just weren't very memorable. Some of the sneaking missions were just horrendous, just really bad. So because of that, I'm just going to throw it in average. As for trophies, I honestly don't remember too much of the trophies. There was a decent amount of collectibles, and I remember one of them was glitched for quite a while, so you couldn't get the platinum straight away. They needed to patch it. There's no trophy guide, it looks like, so I couldn't tell you how long it takes or its difficulty. Again, though, I don't remember anything difficult in there, and I also don't remember it taking ages, so I'm going to say it's not a difficult one. All right, we're getting there. We're almost done. Let's fly through these final few. So, Mystic Pillars. This is a short little puzzle game. I'll just throw that straight in average. No guide or anything online. I'm pretty sure I ended up following a video for one of the trophies where you need to make under a certain amount of mistakes or something. It's just a super easy, chilled puzzle game. Then we've got Time Splitters, which was absolutely amazing for me. An absolute blast from the past. Definitely the weakest Time Splitters game, so I'm going to throw it in B. Still above average. The platinum wasn't too bad because there's just a bunch of guides online because it's an old game. And with it being like one of the PlayStation classics, if you mess up too bad, you can just rewind time and try again. I tried my absolute best not to use the rewind feature. I did use it maybe like 2-3 times from what I can remember. So you could probably make this really, really easy. There's no guide again. It took me 6.5 hours. If you use that rewind feature, it's probably like a 2 or a 3 out of 10. If you don't use the rewind feature, I'd probably say it's more of a 5 or a 6, so you can definitely bring that difficulty down a lot. Other than that though, I'm just really looking forward to when I finally jump into 2 and 3, because honestly, I think probably the same as most people, 2 and 3 is where Time Splitters like really became Time Splitters. 1 was like a test bed, and then 2 was just like, yo, let's just go to town on this, and it was ridiculously fun. Then we've got Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster. Again, my bias, it's going straight into S tier. It's just really, really good. It's Dead Rising 1 with a new coat of paint. They did make it a little bit too easy, which is one of my only gripes with it. The 7-Day Survivor, for example, you can get it done in 2 hours because you can fast forward time, which again, I don't have an issue whatsoever with the fast forwarding of time. It just made your second or third or fourth playthrough way more fun. So it was just a lot of quality of life improvements. Yeah, S tier. Amazing game, an amazing platinum. It's another one that has got no guide or difficulty rating on PSNP. I would say because of how much easier it is than the original and the fact that you can advance time, whereas Dead Rising 1 I think it said was a 35 hour. I would say Dead Rising Deluxe is probably about a 15 to 20 hour, and difficulty wise I'd say it's probably like a 2 or a 3. What Remains of Edith Finch, I'm going to throw that in B. It was really fun. It's basically for the most part a walking simulator, but the story is really, really good. Go play this if you haven't. As long as you can put up with walking simulators and you like that kind of story stuff, I feel like you'll enjoy that. It's really good. It takes about 2 hours for the plat. You'll enjoy those 2 hours. Then we've got Dead Rising 2 Off the Record. I'm going to throw that in A along with Dead Rising 2. I think it's in some ways better than Dead Rising 2, in some ways worse. It's probably, in my opinion, the hardest Dead Rising Platinum. I'm not sure about Dead Rising 4 because I haven't done that yet. The guide's got it at a 5 out of 10 and 40 hours. I can agree with that. I'd maybe give it a 6 out of 10. It is slightly shorter, I think, than Dead Rising 2, but also not as tedious in some ways as Dead Rising 2. But Off the Record does have the challenges. There's some sections in 2 that are just way worse, like the boss fight towards the end of Off the Record is horrendous. They put looters all over the game, and they're also really annoying. And then there's a trophy to get, I think it's like 100,000 kills. That should have took a long ass time, but there was a glitch where you could basically get all of those kills in 2 hours or something, so that was really nice. So I'm throwing it in A. Extraction was another cleanup. I'm going to throw that in average. It's a fun co-op game and I did enjoy my time with it, but as a game it is super average. I know it took a while, so the guide says 4 out of 10 and 50 hours. I know for a fact it took me way longer than 50 hours. I think it took me close to 75 to 80 hours, so a lot longer than the guide suggests. And we got unlucky 3 weeks in a row or something, but the 4 out of 10, there's a certain trophy where you can only do the mode. Well, you can do the mode anytime you want, but the mode only changes like once a week, sometimes only once every 2 weeks. And if during that week it's a really difficult version of that mode, it's just so freaking annoying and ridiculously difficult. So sometimes you just literally need to wait for a week or two for an easier challenge to come along. And it got a little bit annoying towards the end. And there's also a collectibles trophy, which shouldn't be that bad. But for whatever reason, you can only get the collectibles in single player. The game is basically revolves around co-op, but then you need 100, I think it was 100 collectibles, but they all needed to be done in single player. It was such a weird design. I don't know why they did it. It's so annoying. There's a lot of games, co-op games, that for whatever reason, they always have a certain amount of trophies where it's like, oh yeah, you can't do that one in co-op. Or if you do that in co-op, only the host gets it. And it's like, come on, man. If you're going to do a co-op centric game, don't make trophies and the platinum only achievable in single player. It's just silly. But yeah, it was all right. I then did Poppy Chapter 1, 2, and 3. 1 doesn't have a plat. 2 and 3 do. 2 was... I'm going to say 2 was average and 3 was above average. I actually really enjoyed all 3 of them. 3 was a huge improvement though. I'm kind of tempted to throw it into A, but I can't warrant Poppy 3 being better than like Time Splitters and Call of Duty Ghosts and I can't warrant putting it above those. But it's definitely a really fun game, and if you're into horror games, don't let the kind of kid-centric look of it fool you. It's absolutely not a kid's game, and if you enjoy horror games, I'm pretty confident in saying you will absolutely enjoy Chapter 2 and 3. So give them a go. If you're into horror, give them a go. Go with me here and just give it a try, and I think you'll I think, like me, you'll be surprised at how good it actually is. As for the plats though, 2 is a 3 out of 10 and takes 3 hours, and 3 is a 4 out of 10, taking 7 hours. So both relatively short. The difficulty is easy because although you do have to play through the game without dying and using a certain amount of grabs in chapter 3, for example, you can just use, as long as you've got PlayStation Plus, you can just use the cloud save and make sure you're saving every like 20 minutes or something. And then if you did die for whatever reason, you can just close the game and re-download your cloud save, so it'll take you back before you died, pretty much negating almost all of the difficulty that it would have otherwise had. My last platinum, which was this one, I'm going to throw this in average. Assault on Metaltron, I think it was called. It's a small little puzzle game. Took probably about 15 hours, 10 to 15 hours. Some difficulty in there, but once you know what you're doing and what the best upgrades are and stuff, it becomes pretty simple. Then we've got Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered. I'm going to throw that in A. I liked it back on the original release. I like the remaster. I enjoyed it both times. Trophy wise, grab all collectibles, do all side missions. Takes about 40 hours. Difficulty rated 3 out of 10. Sounds about right. You can play everything on the easiest difficulty unless you're going for one of the DLC trophies where you have to play on the hardest difficulty. As far as platinum goes, you can play on easy. So no real challenge. You can also just cut down 40 hours a lot if you was to like skip cutscenes, because it is quite a cutscene heavy game. Then we've got Call of Duty Black Ops 6. I'm going to throw this in average, mainly because of the one trophy to do with the zombies mode where you need to fully level up 10 augments to max level. It takes a shit ton of time, and it was really goddamn boring just playing through the same map over and over and over and over again for hours and hours on end. The zombies mode overall, though, itself is really fun. The Easter egg on the first zombies map and on the second zombies map, some difficulty there, especially if you play solo like I did. Had a blast playing it. The multiplayer grind isn't really anything because you can just mostly grind the multiplayer stuff through zombies anyway. The campaign, I really enjoyed it. It is a weird campaign for Call of Duty, but I did really like it. And I'm looking here, so difficulty 5 out of 10 and hours 80 hours. Definitely agree, probably is around 80 hours, mostly because of that one trophy. 5 out of 10, I'd probably increase that to probably a 7 if you're playing the zombies mode solo. With a squad though, I could imagine it being a 5 or maybe even less. And for those wondering, I didn't actually get the platinum because I played the PS5 version, which didn't have a platinum, but I thought I'd include it in here anyway. And then, although it wasn't my final platinum, we've got Astrobot, my favorite platinum and by far my game of the year. Pretty much perfect, borderline perfect game. The levels, the platforming, the length, the nostalgia, the quality, the details, the trophies, everything in this game is just amazing. There's no filler in here, there's no fluff, there's no bloat. The music's incredible. It's rated a 3 out of 10 and taking about 50 hours. I'd agree with that. I still need to go and get the DLC trophies, but I'm kind of just waiting for the right time to go back for that. But if you haven't played Astrobot, like, just go play it and you will enjoy yourself. And I think that's about the perfect place to leave this video. Astrobot is goated. That's my tier list. Let me know if you would change some of these. Do you disagree with any of them? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for sticking with me. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hit like and subscribe. I've been Mr. Li Ning. Take care of yourselves. Happy New Year, and I'll see you soon.